Today I thought I would share with you guys a recipe to use a ham bone with. So this is a spiral sliced ham. We had ham a few weeks ago. I saved the bone in my freezer, as you can tell it's frozen. And I'm going to make some of my kids, one of their favorite soups. It's split pea soup. But what I want to show you, so you need the ham bone. And this one still has quite a bit of meat on it because I know I'm going to make a soup with it. I want to have a little bit of meat along with the flavor of the bone. So I leave a fair amount of meat on my bone. So you need a bone, you're going to need whatever kind of beans. So this works. I'm going to make split pea soup, so I'm going to use 2 packages of split peas. But it also works with like a 15 bean soup mix. I would do 2 of these, or you could do just a solid, one kind of bean, like the navy beans, the black beans, something like that. So it doesn't have to be split pea soup. It's just kind of a bean soup or a pea soup, and you can pick whichever ones you like. So the other thing you're going to need is some celery, some carrots, peppers, I already cut these up, bell peppers, and an onion. And you're going to need a pan to saute these in and a crock pot to put all of this in. So I'm going to go get set up, and I'll reset up my camera and we'll get going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I cook my vegetables is I'm going to take my ham bone, and like I said, it's frozen, and put it in the pot. And then I'm going to take my split peas and put them in with it. And I'm going to get this started heating with some water while I cook my vegetables. And I cook my vegetables just for flavor. I mean, you don't have to, I guess, but it does add, just browning them adds a lot of flavor. So I like to cook mine. So we're going to do that. And then on the back of the split pea, it says 6 to 8 cups. And because I'm doubling it, that would be 12 to 16 cups. I don't like the 12. That's a really thick soup for split pea, but I don't like the 16 because that's really too thin. So I usually go 13 to 14 cups of water, but I'm going to reserve back. I'm going to put 12 in here right now, put the lid on and turn it on, and then I'm going to use the last little bit of water to deglaze the pan after I cook my vegetables. Get my water added. There was 8, and here's 4 more. And then I like to stir it. I don't know if that's absolutely necessary, but I like to stir it and just make sure the peas aren't sticking together. And then I'm just going to put the lid on, and I'm going to turn that on low, and that gives it a chance to just start heating a little bit. Now we're going to do the vegetables. Okay, so one thing I forgot to add is you're going to need some sort of oil. You can use butter. I like to use olive oil. You can use a canola or vegetable oil, whatever, to saute your vegetables in. But you're going to need about 2 tablespoons of that in your pan. And then I'm going to turn that on low and get that heating while I start to chop my vegetables. It's really helpful to cut everything about the same size. So carrots, I'm going to cut them down a little bit, just so that they cook a little bit faster. The goal is that these things really just dissolve in the soup. You don't really, I mean, they'll still be there, you'll be able to see them, but you want them to be just as soft as the peas. Alright, so now that all the veggies are chopped up and they're in the pan sauteing, I'm going to saute these for about 10 minutes or so on a medium to medium high heat. And I'm going to saute them until I start developing a little bit of fond on the bottom of the pan, and all the veggies are quite a bit softer. And I do this, I've done it both ways, where I don't do this and where I have done this, and there is actually quite a bit of difference. Sauteing these ahead of time and developing that fond makes a big difference in the final flavor of the split pea soup or even a bean soup. So I would highly recommend not skipping this step. If you're in a really big hurry, maybe you could just dump it in there. It will add flavor regardless, but if you have the time, saute your veggies. Alright, so we're starting to get a little bit of color on the vegetables. We've got some fond up around the edges here. It's getting thicker down in the pan, a little bit developing on this other side. So I'm going to call that good. So I have my reserved water, and I'm just going to dump that in. Adding all of it initially. And look at the color of the water is kind of shows you how much flavor there is in there. So you kind of want to scrape all that off the edges. That's good flavor. And I'm going to just add the rest of my water that I didn't just add, just to get it hot and boiling. I'm just going to let that heat up. Not that it matters, because we're going to put it in a pot with a frozen bone, but I'm just going to let it get warm here really quick. Okay, we're going to take this now and put it in the crock pot. Okay, as you can see, it's already started heating. It's got a little bit of steam there. And we're going to take all of this stuff. Be careful, it splashes. Whoops. Spilling out the side. You can see it immediately changes the color of the whole pot, but that's all just flavor. Now at this point you could salt it. I actually wait to salt it until the very end. If you're doing beans, you don't want to even salt the vegetables. I don't know if it's true, but they say that if you salt beans, they don't soften. And because I don't know if it's true or not, I don't salt my beans. Anyway, we're going to put the lid on that, and I'll come back periodically through the day and stir that, but we're just going to leave that there and let it cook for about 8 hours. Well, 6 hours anyway. Okay, so the soup is done, and I turned it off a little bit ago. And if you stir it, you'll see that it's not thickened up a lot yet, but as it cools, it thickens. And the carrots kind of get down in there where you can't really see them, so If you have kids who don't like carrots, cool it before you eat it. A little bit anyway. Okay, the last thing I do is I like to kind of peel off the meat from the bone and break it apart. But I also pull out any like tendon, whatever, ligament, fat stuff, and then all the bones. Alright, so there is the soup, and I'll show you my kids' favorite way to eat split pea soup. Alright, so this is how my family likes it. Bread bowl with soup in it, and then we like to put some cheese sticks. I like the Swiss, my kids like the cheddar, the ones who eat it, but it's fun to dip in there and melt, and it's really good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe and that you try it yourself.